So let's call to order the February 15th meeting of the Economic Development Authority of the City of Lynchburg. Start with a roll call. Sean Hewitt.
Here.
Pat Mosby.
Here.
Georgianne Sneed.
Here.
Kim Sorensen.
Here.
John Stone. Here. Richard Tugman.
Here.
Sackett Wood.
Here.
All for being here. In your package are minutes from our January 18 meeting. Any comments or suggestions before I accept a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes from January 18th as presented. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, like sign. Minutes are approved. All right, let's talk about our MUMS grant.
All right. William is here. If you haven't met William, he is one of the developers for the project that we have received the MUMS grant for. We are at a place where we have documents ready to sign. So our recommendation would be to authorize the chair to sign off on said documents.
So there's a performance agreement and a loan document in there, and I'm really quite shocked that DHCD was able to turn those around that quickly. So, and the quicker they're, if you haven't seen, gone by the project, they're rolling. And so they probably have invoices ready to to send our way as soon as possible. And it's a really, really great project. And thank you and Will both for the investment. Really appreciate that.
Thank you all for consideration of the project, and we're excited to get this thing delivered. It's been great.
When will you move in occupants?
April 1st.
Is that when you start leasing or is that when they actually start moving in?
We're gonna let them move in if they're willing. I think we've got 3 signed currently and a lot of interest in the others. So we were hoping to be a little bit more, a little bit further along so our leasing agent can move into the building, which they'll probably do though around April 1st and then be there for a couple months.
Do we know who's going to be in the downstairs?
The main level, we've got some plans in development. We're hoping for a golf simulator restaurant.
Okay.
And so we're talking with the operators now on how that'll be structured, built out. We've got plans mostly ready for permit if they're willing to sign the dotted line. They're going through the LYH launch LYH program now, and then we'll have another 2,000 roughly square feet of commercial space for lease available along Court Street. So
Right.
so the plan right now would be for them to occupy about 75% of that lower level.
Fantastic.
So it was a match made in heaven. As soon as I found out the MUMS thing, I took both of them to lunch. They acted on it immediately. And we'd already taken the golf simulator. So it's a really wonderful thing because as we talked about before, mixed use in downtown is really what's in the master plan to have happen. It's really what'll sustain a vibrant downtown is to have that, but it's a tough road to hoe. Especially when you're talking about entrepreneurial, folks coming in and out of there. It's really difficult on a property owner. And as we've seen, in the past 10 to 15 years, there have been a lot of people who have just chosen to build out the whole thing as apartments, right? Because either there wasn't anybody and what Ashley has done, we did back 10 years ago, that launch LY, we did it back before, and we still have, Mrs. Joyce down there is one of our, folks that was here for that. So it is. We almost have to have a pipeline of some sort to come in there for the developers to feel comfortable, upfitting these spaces, because it's like when you upfit a space for commercial, that's pretty specific. Whereas when you're doing apartments, you just paint it again and rock on. So this is the other Will.
Yes.
Will Andrews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The documents, the loan agreements dated today.
Correct. Yeah.
And they need to go to
Yeah, so the loan agreement and the deed of trust is between the EDA and AC Capital. And then the performance agreement itself will get signed today as well by both parties, but it still needs to be sent and signed off by DHCD. So it's all, and the way that the financing of this project is kind of unique as well, where it's a loan, but they have to submit invoices for reimbursement. So it's actually dated for April for the loan to commit. Yeah,
Give yourself enough time.
gave us time to make sure DHCD would sign off on it, and 'cause that aspect is, we're working with them, but they're not in our office, and we don't have control over when they'll ink it. So
Okay.
Did you need a motion to approve the signing, approve you signing the loan? Is that the
Correct.
motion?
Correct.
You got a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
I'll
it.
second that.
All right, so we've got a motion to authorize the chair to execute loan agreement, promissory note, performance agreement. Any further discussion before we take a vote? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Love
Yeah.
to host you guys anytime for a tour in the next few weeks. I think it's
Yeah.
safe enough finally.
You think?
Give it half that.
I know about
Maybe
the
it's
stone.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Appreciate what you're doing downtown.
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much, Marja. Like.
Okay.
All right, next item on the agenda is an update on the Virginian.
So, it's in your Dropbox as well, but, Blair gave us back in August, which is when the true up occurs. Just kind of, and I've got copies here for everybody. So if you take 3 pages and pass it on. So we have gotten the projections for the coming year from Blair, which will be incorporated into the budget.
Mhm.
And as it stands, going through everything preliminarily, they will pay the loan, what they will satisfy what the performance agreement says. So that's unbelievable. I believe that they had until like 2034 to do that.
Wow.
Which should be a huge celebration for
Wow.
them to continue.
Yeah.
to say it wasn't a good project.
10 years.
It's a fabulous project. Anyway, so what I'm looking at now is just, Blair had sent who up to look at both the conduit loan and the loan from the EDA. And then he sent in the projections, which I've included for you all, and then I've got the true up. I've got what the city says, completes the performance agreement. That's the last page.
It's been 5 years.
Uh-huh. So I'm bringing it to you all just because I took this document, the last page of document there, and have circulated that back, with Blair to make sure everything is on the same page, but the city finance department doesn't want to move forward till the EDA has seen all this, because you all are, you're not only, you loaned the money, but you're also the guarantor on the other loan. So I'm just starting the process. I just got this, started to get this information and put it together. I had a death in my family, and so I'm been a little, I might have worked harder, as a matter of fact, just so I wouldn't think about it, but anyway, so I just wanted you all to have everything, all the latest, everything we had, so that if I reach out to you, because I know that they are preparing documents. I think the budget goes to council in the book in March.
So what will we be expected to do then?
You're just, look, you're the conduit for all this, and I'm running it back through Blair and looking at all that to make sure that all the loans that we have and everything there, everybody's on the same page.
So what you're saying is that
You don't have to, I don't want any
Okay.
I don't need a recommendation from you. I'm just kind of laying the groundwork here with all of the documents that I have. To make sure that because there's, you know, a bank loan that you all are a guarantor for and then you've lent the money there, that we are all on the same page. Because the city sees this as their final payment in the performance agreement being, you know, less than what Blair has projected.
Mhm.
And therefore, they wouldn't even have to true up, so they will in theory, they will in July 1st or whenever, they will write their last check back to the Virginian LLC.
Okay.
We might just, I see that economic development authority principal paid, conduit loan principal paid. Can you just tell me, we're gonna do 700,000 this year?
Yes. No, they're gonna do 1 million. Are you asking me what the
The conduit,
projections are?
I'm just not familiar with I might be stupid, but.
No, you're not at all. Well, I know it's confusing. So the EDA lent $2 million to
Direct
the
loan.
project.
Direct loan.
And then guaranteed a $3 million conduit loan, right? And that equals 5 million. And the performance agreement says that the city would return the taxes, the net new taxes that were generated from the project
Mhm.
until we reach the $5 million mark. I mean, so obviously there's interest and things like that that have accumulated with all of that. But Blair was telling you in August where he was with all that. Then this is the projections that he sent for the coming year. And according to the city's records, which is number 3, their final payment to him would be this 870 something. So we've got some work to do here to see how Blair intends for all of that, the rest of that to be paid off.
But the taxes were used in part of paying the
That's what
conduit
you
loan?
do. What
So
you
wouldn't you
do,
have paid the taxes anyway if you were operating a hotel down here?
no, so what you do is incentives are all based on return on investment. So when the Virginian Hotel came online and none of those taxes were being realized by the city. So the city said, we will take the taxes you're gonna generate for the next, you know, till 2034 is what the performance agreement says. But we will take the taxes that you're gonna generate, which are net new, meaning if you don't do this project, we don't have this money.
Right.
So we're gonna take that money that you're generating in taxes and we are going to put that back into, we are agreeing by performance agreement to put that back into the project up to $5 million. Does that make sense? That's that's really the basic formula, Sean, for almost all of our, of all incentives, whether state, or locally, is we are normally looking at, if we give an incentive, when are the taxpayers made whole? And you're using money that you wouldn't have if the person didn't do the project or add the employees.
I see.
So we are almost always, unless you're talking about, you know, a big project like this with real estate and all of that, most of ours are an expansion of an existing facility. So we're looking at the CapEx going in there, whether it's machinery and tools, business, personal property, real estate. We're looking at all of that. And then we're looking at the employees, the creating of the new jobs, right? And we always do, we base the formula that we have, that you all have, on when do the citizens get made whole? And it's usually 3 to 5 years unless it's a bigger, you know, project like this. So normally you have somewhere between, because the city can look out over the long haul,
Mhm.
you usually have anywhere between a 15 to 20 year payback on some of, you know, these kind of things, but you know, most developers want to get us paid off as soon as possible. So one of the things that makes this so robust is most of the time we're looking at the taxes that are going to be paid or the additional taxes that are gonna be paid are left to only real estate and maybe machinery and tools,
Okay.
something like that. Whereas in this case, you had lodging tax, amusement tax, sales tax, meals tax. And then you had real estate tax. So when you combined all of those, together, it really is the payback period is reduced significantly.
So to be made whole, this $875,000
It's
figure,
us to 5 million.
and it's paid as of August 18th of 24, then, not 23.
Yeah.
Okay.
24.
Okay, all right, I guess that's 23 then.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, really, in the city's world, it's 25.
Okay.
It's their 25 budget. You're in their 24 budget now.
Okay.
The owners of the Jones Memorial Library asking for some similar concessions and.
They had not, and of course, once you do one of these, everybody comes to you and says,
Mhm.
I want the
Mhm.
same deal the Virginian had, which is why, it's really important to have some kind of direct on what we're looking for and what we're not, because there's lots of hotels out there that didn't ask for any, assistance, right? So, but yeah, they have asked, when you go in some other municipalities, back to that point, they have like an occupancy tax rebate to help projects like that. We don't have that. Every one of ours is individual. And once you get past what you all's limits are, the limits that the EDA has set for incentives, because most of the incentives you do yourself with your money that you've accumulated over the years, it has to go to council. You have a policy which allows any of us, when we're talking to prospective businesses, to talk to them about, it's always with the caveat that you all have to approve it, you have to have the money, all of that, but we're free to move about the cabin to say, here's what's out there to be done. Should you want to do a whole lot more than that, then you need to go to council.
Okay.
So I'm just, these documents, came, like I said, Blair sent that document because he likes for you all to know, and he screws it up, and
Mhm.
looks at it in August. He had that, and I probably put it in the Dropbox. But then I got his projections, and then I got a call from finance, and they just said, we're gonna be done here. So we want to make sure that the EDA, is on board with that. So I'm waiting to hear back from,
And so when we vote, what will we be voting?
you're not voting.
I mean, eventually, will we vote for anything or not?
No,
Never.
you just, the performance
Oh,
agreement
yes.
would be satisfied, right? And you would be looking at, how do you tie up the loose ends on the loans themselves? What is the plan? I mean, Blair may come to you and say, I still have this, will you all consider it, right? But I'd bring all that to you. This right now is just saying, first, it's celebratory because it's done so well.
Right.
There are some of you in this room as well as me that still have scars on their back from this project.
You're the only one that was here at that,
I mean,
because that was before I came,
Yeah, John,
and I'm the only one.
Different color hair back then.
Wow.
So
So-
even though we're near the end on the city
Correct.
returning money, they're not necessarily at the end of their paying off their loans.
Correct, and that's what I need to know is just what's, from Blair's perspective, what is that? Is he on board? I just got this note from finance, and so I'm just trying to bring it all the way back around but I think it's, fantastic.
It is. It really is.
Great.
That is all.
That's great.
so let me
And
just
that they're
ask
doing
the
so-
same question Kim asked. What is his motivation to do
To
this
pay it.
early?
Yeah, pay off early.
He has till 2030,
Have you watched any kind of council meeting like?
Okay, well, I'm just,
I was
No.
just curious what the motivation was, because if you have such a great deal.
Well, it isn't
You
paying
want
it off early. It's like we're done.
Yes,
The
this is.
city's done.
He's not paying early, the city's part of what they owe in is early.
Yes.
Oh,
If there's
the
two different
performance
things
agreement.
going on.
Oh,
is-
okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
If I understand correctly.
yeah, you're exactly right.
Just purely
Yeah.
based on revenue.
Yeah, it's confusing, because
It's
like I
done
said,
well.
none of us
Yeah,
were
yeah, yeah.
here at the time this was others.
yeah.
It's been met. Yep. Okay.
I just as a business person, I said, why would I?
That's it.
pay
There's no
early
more. The
rate?
performance agreement is what the city
The
agreed
tax
to do
rebate
to
part.
facilitate this
Gotcha.
project, and you
Okay.
all were the conduit, you know, for that.
Gotcha,
And
okay.
took advantage of the fact that if you had money, you could loan it and get interest on it. So, yes, that's what it is. I'm sorry, second. It is that the city's commitment to this project monetarily will be done.
okay, got it.
Okay. No action,
That's
just.
great.
Information.
Okay.
Model for success.
I was just thinking the same thing. Great success story.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the red numbers during COVID when they didn't do as well as they
Mhm,
projected, and then came right back.
Just be with that for a minute.
Yeah, that's an amazing story.
I mean, because, well, it can be told outside to people. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, any other questions on the Virginia? We shall move on to our Ivy Creek forestry operation. Sounds very fancy.
Just trying to keep the language consistent, but it is maybe a little bit more robust than the actual project. I just wanted to let you all know it is complete. They finished the job in like 3 days. And when you see a visual of the piece of equipment that they use, you'll understand why. But just to recap, they did the way that we worked out the contract was the area outlined in blue would be done at a flat rate, and then these two smaller areas where site A is planned were done at a per acre rate, which allowed us to be a little bit more flexible with the budget. So Hearst was out there. That is, it's a little hard to tell the size of that piece of equipment, but it is quite large, and it makes trees disappear very quickly. So you can
Just runs
see,
over them and churns them up, right?
yeah, it comes like starts up high and goes down, and then there's nothing there. So this is from essentially where site A is planned. That is Boxley Block. The small building in between the two sites is Virginia Metal Treating, and then that is the River's Edge site. So this is from up above on where site A is planned. It opened up the land quite a bit, and it kept it looking somewhat natural, and it's not going to be a
It's
huge
nice.
mud
Yeah.
Really nice.
piles.
Yeah.
This is from the road. So this is previously,
You couldn't see.
you couldn't see more than 6 feet in front of you. It was completely dense. And it opened it up, and it is a lot flatter than
Uh-huh.
than you think. I was shocked when I was out there. So we are continuing to work with Nicholas Meyer, the city's urban forester, to create a plan for seeding. As you can see, there's a lot of debris left. The suggestion right now is to wait until fall, see what has broken down, and if it's thin enough that we can put some seed down. And then it should hopefully remain as a grassy, natural wooded area that remains open enough that prospects can see it and walk out on it if they want to. So that is that. They also did come in under budget. We had set a maximum of $25,000, and they came in just over $23,000.
Looks good.
Yeah, it does look a lot flatter than it did.
Thank you for managing that.
Of course.
Anybody have any questions on Ivy Creek?
Sorry, remind me, the water and sewer and everything is all
How much will that cost?
already at site A and B?
No.
No.
I think it's close around there, Georgianne, but our goal would be for this site would be to get utilities to it
Right.
and get access to it. So
Right.
from now, when we've gotten 2 grants, right, and one of the grants was for sites A and B, and that's to give us the complete due diligence of what, we did a master plan.
Right, okay.
We did a master plan that gave us some numbers, that gave us the numbers that we used to apply for the grant. And then applying for the grant will give us hard numbers, due diligence. We've put money into the CIP.
Mhm.
We'll see if it stays, for that, but our goal is to have utilities to the site and access to the site so that at least, and then, as far as we can get on any kind of construction docks, so that when we get a prospect in, we know that the grading will be probably very significant and all of that is not something that shovel ready means you've graded it or you've got documents so that somebody could start just like that. And we know that the grading is challenging, so it would really be based on who the, prospect was, right? How many jobs, what were they looking for, what is all that gonna be? And then also with these due diligence documents, then, Clayton is looking into, we used industrial access funds to build Lynchpin Lane. You all did back in the day for that little road that goes up there. So we're just looking, once you get all this, then you can go out and look for other money pockets, right? To be able to, to augment the CIP.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. This is exciting. I know, I'm serious. The Vanna White I had to do with all that brush out there that's gonna be significant. I mean, boy, you had
I
to,
remember that.
you had to drink at lunch or either, have a very vivid imagination.
Great. Next item on our agenda is our VBAF.
Yep, we just can't leave you all alone. Yeah, Virginia Brownfields Assistance Fund.
Okay.
You all have gotten, you might not know that, but we have a Brownfields grant from the EPA. We've gotten 3 of them. They come through the EDA as a conduit for that, and they're primarily assessment grants. So they allow us to go out there on whether it's city property or private property and do phase 1 and phase 2s because Lynchburg is such an old city. There's practically nothing, including myself, that's not a brownfield. So we've used those and we went down and did this for the Elliott's Cleaners on Bedford Avenue. Dry cleaners are notorious when it comes to brownfields, just because there was unregulated,
Chemicals,
gas stations, dry cleaners, all that kind of stuff. So other folks that had looked at that building, it had some preliminary work done. I mean, brownfields is always something that you really have to work people through because just the idea of what you may uncover can keep people from not developing a property for years. And so we did, Daryl Calfee, and I don't know what the LLC is he's using for that.
Fritz Price.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna remember that. So anyway, okay. He has bought that property and what we agreed to was to go in and do a full phase 1, or they had a phase 1 done recently enough to be able to use it, and then a phase 2. So the phase 1, if they don't find anything, you don't have to do a phase 2. If they do, you do the phase 2 and then they make recommendations to you. So what we agreed to there, what happens to us many, many times, and I really want you all to hear me on this, is that developers come with a very unrealistic time frame. Meaning not unrealistic for them, because I know time is money, but for me to be able to turn things around when I'm dealing with federal or state kinds of assistance programs, we can't do that fast. And many times they have restrictions. Like that you all physically have to own the property. So the developer would have to sell the property to you to hold while this was all being done, right? So and everybody loves the government right now. So, you know, the level of, kind of abuse and cynicism you take on is delightful as well. But what we walked down the road on this project was we were really hopeful that we might be able to find not a lot of remediation needing to be done. We have no money for remediation, meaning the EPA Brownfield grant is limited to assessments only. The only people that have remediation money, and they don't have a lot of it, is the state of Virginia. And the state of Virginia has several pots of money, one of which makes the city or the EDA own the property. So when we got to the end of it, and what I'd said in the beginning was we hope that there's something that could be handled here. We're all hoping for the best, right? Because you never want to see a property like that just sit. But I said, we will, you know, consider looking at working with you on going to get a state grant. And the state grant that's most accessible is a $50,000 grant, which is a Virginia Brownfields Assessment Fund grant. And you're able, that is the most flexible of the grants. You don't have to sell the property. You apply for the money. You can actually do like many of these grants, you can't spend any money up front. They won't reimburse you for money you spent up front. There's just a lot of limitations. And if your project isn't almost perfect, Will and Will were an example of that. You have a hard time fitting it in there. So when we got to the end of all this, none of the other grants worked, right? None of the other grants would have taken way too much time. So we got on the phone, and after meeting with Daryl, we got on the phone because he said, well, you all can just give us $50,000. And I went, no, can't do that. We don't have a program. It doesn't, I'm giving you everything I can give you from a normal incentive standpoint. And I told you all this in the beginning, right? But once again, disappearing ink. I got the email. You didn't read it. So we called the head of DEQ, whom I happen to have a good relationship with, Department of Environmental Quality. And he talked to Clayton and I and said, get on it. We have a meeting on Wednesday and we will consider this. So
Consider what?
consider a grant.
The $50,000.
Just
$50,000. That's just for an assessment.
Remediation.
That's for remediation.
So he has to cough up the rest.
Yeah, but what they're really hoping, and Clayton, you can jump in here anytime.
It should cost less than $50,000.
Well, the thing though, in here that I was reading, said option 2 and 3 were like 100 and 115.
But they have to, when they do your assessment, right? They cannot tell you what it's gonna be. So they just make a projection and say, like when they do the assessment of, they say, this is what it could cost up to any of this.
So what if
amount.
it does cost 100?
Then that's on him.
And he knows that and he'd cough up the rest.
He'd have to. Just
Out of curiosity, does he buy this property without knowing this?
No.
This is purely speculative then.
I mean, all you had to do
Right.
was drive by.
What stops first? He has
Assume for bank financing that there would have to have been assessments and money.
Does he have to have it rezoned and public hearing and stuff? I mean, you go from a commercial laundromat to a
Mixed
housing
use.
complex.
Gonna have
It's-
a ground floor.
Commercial.
It's a currently single story that will remain commercial and then.
And if you drive by it now, it doesn't look like this anymore. He's torn all the walls.
Yeah.
They're gone.
So he has bought it then.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's
He's working on it.
really working on it.
I guess when you start reading about chemicals and everything else, are you just presenting this for information? Are we approving something?
We a pass through for
Yeah,
for the
the
grant.
VBAF grant, right, has to be applied for by the city or the EDA, right?
Okay.
You cannot as an individual apply for that. So what we are saying is that we are asking you all to consider being the conduit for this grant application. You have no money is involved. All it is you have to be the people that apply for that.
If we don't
Grant.
support the grant, then it doesn't happen.
The grant doesn't happen, the work's happening.
Correct.
Yeah,
And he
yeah,
don't know.
absolutely.
Developers can't apply for it on their own.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have to go through
So
us.
this is a bit half-assed in a way, because he started the project, but then he becomes aware of the fact that he can get this money. Is that?
Well, in the very beginning, when he was looking at the project, we go down through like what all the options are, right? We say, you know, you get a phase two, and a phase two is gonna uncover, you know, a certain amount of it, but it's not over until you completely get in there and see what has to be done. We are very upfront about the fact that, you know, these assessments are very expensive
Mhm.
to do. So we are doing that for you, and you don't pay anything for that. We use our brownfield money to go and do that. And the other thing I'll just say to you all is that the EPA requires us to procure the consultant that is gonna do that work. So we had everybody and their brother, you know, tell us that they wanted to be the consultant for the brownfield, all the local people, everybody. The consultant was chosen, and that's the only person I can use. So if you come in and start muscling me and tell me you wanna use this consultant, I can't help you.
Okay.
It's already been procured by the EDA, and it goes for a 3-year cycle. So, and also we have to go through all that in order to allow those assessments to be given to you, and you don't pay for
So
them.
Margie, our justification for approving this is grounded in the fact that there's a tax base in the ground floor.
Yes, yes.
That's the only justification.
Well,
Otherwise,
and-
what,
And getting the bill, and
getting
having the
it
building be viable again, yeah, absolutely.
Not just a whole.
not just.
Yeah, it's just general support of
A lot
local
of-
businesses.
Yeah.
And the authority had no responsibility.
Right, we're just putting that time.
But I'm saying to you
That
all
was
that
gonna
we
be
make
my
it very
question, the
clear to
liability.
everybody. I mean,
Mhm.
number one, these assessments, like the Fifth Street building up there near the LRBA that's been changed into the co-working space.
Mhm.
Right, the Brownfield grant went for that, and it had tanks down in the, you know, down in the, but it had been a car repair place and all that.
Mhm.
We did all the assessment for that, and that was over, just the assessments alone was over like $50,000. So that owner of the building, right, when they were
Mhm.
coming in there to get it financed to do whatever, that's what was put on the table. I mean, that doesn't get talked about very much. The grant that we get is always celebrated, but the truth is, we're putting that grant where we can back out into the, you know, business community to be used to take property and, you know, move it to the next level. However, we do not have any remediation money. The EPA gives us an assessment grant, and that's all we can use it for. And remediation is a whole nother kettle of fish. And so what we do, the consultants do, is they just give you kind of a synopsis at the end of it of what this could be, you know, up to or whatever. You can imagine legally what a dicey situation you'd be in telling somebody what they need to do to remediate, you know, the building. And every developer is an eternal optimist, and they don't believe any of that is true. Right? So that's what we deal with. So I'm just saying to you all, as members of the authority, if people approach you, and I know they do, you know, we're in here trying to help people, and we have helped people. And when they hear things they don't want to hear, then they somehow feel like we need to help them, you know, even more. And once again, I can't make programs out of air. The programs that we have are what we use for things, but this is a situation where because of our relationships and everything like that, I mean, the head of DEQ was just absolutely wonderful, you know, to us. Also has had experience with this particular type of remediation and felt comfortable that it probably could get done, you know, where they were in the construction part of it, like you looking at me, and I cannot even tell you all how many times this has happened, where they want a boatload of money, right, to help with the project, and they look at me and go, I don't have time for you to apply for anything else. Now, you don't want to know what I would say back to you if we were not in mixed company. I mean, you know, I'm like, people in hell want ice water too, but I can't help, you know. Your timeline, city council and the EDA expects me to be good stewards of what we're doing here and making sure that your timeline is not what I can do anything about, right? So I'm very grateful that this seems to have all worked out, and Clay Copper, you know, got on top of a grant application, which you can imagine what some of those can look like, right? But we're bringing this to you all because you are the only way that this grant can be applied for. For the EDA to be the conduit. It's no different than the mums or any of that. And I just want you to know what we do on the front end, you know, to talk with everybody and figure out whether that's gonna be a good fit or any. This could turn out to be a wonderful situation here if all of that can be taken care of and this is able to help do that, because
But
otherwise.
If the vapor barrier doesn't work, then he's got a problem.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, so when he's done and you're done
Yeah.
remediating, somebody comes back and does all this again and then says,
Uh-huh. They come in and they come in and say, here's what the issue is, right? Here's what the issue is. Here's what it takes. They've identified the issue. Here's what we're gonna do to alleviate, you know, that issue. And they design what they're doing right there on the spot, right? And then they implement that
Yeah.
and.
For all intents and purposes, it's actually a really rudimentary design for as scary as all this stuff sounds. It's essentially,
40 pages,
Yeah.
please.
yeah, it's essentially a like radon
It's like,
exhaust system. So they'll go in and they'll basically the ground, the soil subsurface has chemicals mixed into it, and they release over time, and they will continue to release over time. So essentially, unless you're going to demolish the building, dig out a bunch of soil, bring in fresh soil and do a liner, the only thing that you can do is continually get rid of the vapor as it comes out.
The vapor.
So they go in and they drill holes in the slab and they create a vacuum. Essentially, it's just a fan that runs and disperses the gas. And then they make sure that it's sealed.
But there's an option 2 and an option 3, and I guess I'm still trying to get my head around where it says that the total could be 375 and we
That's-
only got 50. I'm
That's
just.
an
I can't-
engineering firm not wanting to have any liability for somebody choosing to do a remediation plan that ends up costing more than.
Yeah, I hear you. This is what I'm reading and I'm struggling to make the numbers work.
But we don't have to make.
No exposure.
Yeah.
We don't, other than once we stick our toe in it.
Yeah. No,
I think
We've
we're
stuck
more or
our
less
toe in it.
flow through.
Seems to me there's no way $50,000 is gonna.
I don't think so either.
And all the liability falls back to DEQ and state agencies, not on the city.
No, it
No,
falls
no.
back on the owner of the
Okay.
property.
Oh, no.
If someone were to approve it and kids X amount of years down the
Right.
road, it still
Yes,
doesn't touch
absolutely.
the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other part of it is that everybody that's in this business, like any other business, is marking it up. What the remediate, I mean, you know, what it could cost and all that. And then, I mean, I'm telling you that if I'm on the phone with the head of DEQ who has all this, you know, information, and they're saying, go ahead and apply. And as a matter of fact, the numbers they gave us were a lot less than 50.
Yeah, it's a drilling holes with PVC pipe and a fan, essentially.
Amazing what's happening down there on Bedford Avenue.
And they happen in place.
That was All-Star Gas Station for 30 years before.
Yeah.
No, I read that. I was like, seriously?
Yeah.
Double whammy?
It's unbelievable.
That's-
But I think that's again where
It says-
every brownfield that every one of these assessments that we have done has been, we have not had, like I go to the brownfields conferences, right? And there's stuff there like in Detroit and in these other places and everything, like you cannot even, imagine, you cannot even imagine. And we're really, really old. And I imagine if there were regulation that somebody needed to do based on some of our behavior now, we wouldn't enforce it. I mean, so I have been shocked that almost everything, and no matter how, but Harvey Cole site, what would you have thought that would have been? It's nothing.
Mhm.
McConville Road over there where the Waytech, circuit boards and all that kind of stuff. No, I mean, there's some, but there's not, I mean, in some of the photographs and the different things that
Yeah.
you see that, but just the fact that we have gone in there and it's not being passed from person to person, there's actually something happening where you do check it. And like Sean said, and trying to protect people, you're doing those things, you're involved in it, is really also a feather in the cap of saying, if we're doing development here, we're really trying to make sure that what's there with their assistance meaning on the brownfield assessment part of it, right? Because you don't get remediation grants from the Fed until you have something really kind of bad in order to apply for those. So this would have been the best case scenario. Absolutely. And it's also something that from a timing perspective, as Georgianne and some of you all have seen how far along it is, that is a viable alternative with minimal, all you're doing is saying, we're the only ones that can apply for this. DEQ is saying, go forth with it and we'll see what happens. No match required. The match comes from the owner. And we just process that. So that's what we're asking for your approval for. To submit the application.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask if I have a conflict of interest if the developer is a former employee.
I wouldn't think so, but. if
Okay,
you'd like
I
to
just want
explain,
to,
feel free.
know if I need to disclose that. So.
Any further questions before we accept a motion to authorize staff to submit this grant application?
So moved. For that motion.
Second. Got a motion to authorize staff to apply for the DEQ pass-through grant on behalf of Fritz Price LLC. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Staff report.
Okay. You all can read the staff report. I know Richard's got a conference call and I want to be mindful of people's time. I do have a incentive committee really quick. And I put it in your Dropbox, but I also printed it out. Just wanted to make you all aware that the airport is going to, Andrew, the airport director, is going to Phoenix at the end of the month on February the 26th. And he is going to be having some in-depth conversations with, and I will put this, I've got an executive summary right here that we just did on air service. The city has set aside, in the past, you all have been called on to do matches. And I will tell you that in the airline world, if you want another flight or you want a flight going somewhere else, you're gonna have to subsidize it, right? You're gonna have to have the support of your major employers, but you're also gonna need to have, money to do it. So Andrew applied for a grant. He was able to get $600,000. The city set aside money to go along with that. So we have like close to $1 million
Grant for what? To
air
support,
service.
which goes to whatever airline, just subsidized basis, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, grants.
Yeah, Chicago flight or something like
Yeah.
that.
well, Americans who we have,
Concord.
Yeah.
you know, right now. So we definitely, they know all of this, right? This will just be further, you know, discussions to try to get. So they held a conference call earlier this week to talk with Centra, BWXT, Framatome, Liberty. You know, where would you want to go if we, you know, when we're having these discussions, but
Mhm.
people talk about the airport and the airlines all the time, and this is just a really good way to say, to let people know that this is always being discussed. You know, it's like everything else we've talked about today, our hands are tied by what the airlines want to do, and so I
Mhm.
think it's just, we can't do anything unless we have support. They want to see support from major employers. I don't think it's ever been a question here of the amount of riders we could get filling the planes up. It's been much more, you know, the airlines' decisions that they've had. We subsidized, I believe you all were involved in that. The EDA was involved in the Delta flight that was here back in the day of providing the subsidy for that. And when the subsidy ran out, the planes were still full and they made a decision to go elsewhere. So just want you all to be apprised of that, and I'll send you a complete summary on it.
So he's going to Arizona to
Have a-
pitch,
Uh-huh.
go to a bunch of airlines?
Yeah,
Or is he
he's
going to a
going to
specific meeting?
pitch to American, United, Delta. And then he'll also be talking to some of the smaller carriers,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
But the smaller carriers are gonna take you to, you know, one
bigger
certain
one.
destination there. But we, you know, if you wanna be in the mix, so that is what we, that is what we will.
Is that the same grant that we first heard about a year ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay. Got a piece of paper. Somewhere in my pile here.
Where you look?
That I'm going to pass around. Knocking off the most it does.
You need these back, Marja?
Okay.
But you don't have to keep them. I've got them in your Dropbox. I just wanted you to
Okay.
have them for now. Okay, so John will look at this. You all will look at it and give it back to me. You can just read it really quickly, but it's exciting. Nell is fabulous and is, hit the ground running. She has to come out, she has to come up to my office and just go, I need to speak with you. What time would that be possible? And she stays really late to make it possible. Many conversations are had after dark in the parking lot. Over on my way. But that's, you know, but anyway, she's just been wonderful with staff and everything. I couldn't, we're so incredibly grateful to have her. We got some really kind of cool things going on with, from a sports tourism perspective. We're bringing a group in here that does virtual reality, you know, filming. And so we were able to, I always say the consultants that we bring on board here always give me much more than what I pay them for. Stephen gives me much more. And the, John Schmieder, who's our sports tourism, he's working on that strategic plan right now. But he's got this guy that is out there. And if you're a sports fan, it, you know, it makes a lot of sense when you get sports, college athletes that are getting ready to transfer and they go in a transfer portal, you know, to go to other schools or they're available or whatever happens there. The colleges don't really have an opportunity to bring them on campus. A lot of times there's a time frame there that's really tight. So they've got to try to find a way to impress them. Well, there's no pun intended, but there's virtually no, young person that doesn't use the Oculus and the virtual reality. So they've been doing this virtual reality filming, right, where it looks like that you are on the floor, you know, at the basketball game. Duke does it. I mean, you know, you're right there, and it's so cool. So this will be filming all of our facilities: Randolph, University of Lynchburg, Liberty, Parks and Rec, the city stadium, all of that. And it can be on a YouTube channel for those that get motion sickness from the Oculus. But they came and they're giving us an incredible deal on it, and we're gonna take them, they're coming next week, I think it is, and we're gonna go to all the campuses and film. But it also allows Andrew, if you've ever heard him in here before, when he goes to one of these conferences, he has 30 appointments a day. Like it's speed dating to let people see your facilities and all that. And so, he can use that as well. He can hand somebody, I mean, that's pretty cool, Lynchburg, Virginia, excuse me. I have more Giles chairs and I have an Oculus. That's all, right? Ball game, right there. Never expected it. Hit you from the back of the head, you don't even know. And that's what I'm saying. So that's coming, that's gonna come here. And I just, the relationships with the colleges right now are just sending me, they are just being absolutely, phenomenal in terms of, and that reminds me of something else. Support and open, and we're finding connections, and I'm able to help them by asking them to help me. And it's just, it's really wonderful because quite frankly, between the advanced manufacturing side of it and the tourism side of it, both of those need to be strong for our economy. And the one that we can really have the most influence on, in my mind, is the tourism side of it. I mean, because we can go out here and do all these things, whereas on the manufacturing side, we want to support people, but they have to make, some of those decisions. So right now, as you all know, and I will send this, this out to you to have more explanation on it, but the city is, they've had a lot of trouble with the Smart Scale award that they got in finishing 501-221. And obviously the prices have gone up significantly. So they're going after what's called a RAISE grant, RAISE. And they need letters of support. And so the EDA will hopefully complete a letter of support for that. But we've been tasked with going out to all the businesses and the colleges to get these letters of support, and it's been phenomenal, the response. He's mad at us. So it's great. So that will be something I will come, to you, well, I'm telling you right now, so that we'll get a letter from the EDA, for support of veterans, because we're gonna need that in order to finish that. Even though we got money from the state, we will need that to finish that project. So, that is something else we're working on, and the city has decided they need to immediately do a bond refinancing, so she's telling all of us are having to update the whole credit presentation by next week. So there's not much going on here. So anyway, very exciting what I'm passing around to y'all.
Incredible.
Good job. Great job.
Right, so well,
So what?
well, I have to wait for, I went to them directly.
The state's not involved.
Oh, yeah, that's all to the go.
Talk.
But the truth is that we want to hear anything, so I went to the company myself. And said, my people want to know what's happening. So I like to think that we were able to rattle the case. So let's get on with that. And we had a meeting here a week ago, with probably 8 or 10 people. So, fantastic.
8 or 10 people with who?
Yes.
The company?
Mm-hmm.
Here in the.
In your chairs.
That
Feel satisfied. Yeah, good stuff.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a time frame?
Yeah, it'll just be when it has to go to, general assembly.
Okay.
So that's all I have. Y'all can read the rest of it. If you have any questions for me that I can answer, I wouldn't have to give you.
Anybody, any questions?
Just broadly or?
One more thing. Thank you, Keisha. BWXT has come back, even though Pat has just told me 85 people were moved out of there. They've come back and you signed a letter, John, letting them extend the lease to November of 24 with an option in 25.
Mhm.
They've sent me back a formal amendment. Right, so you've already signed once, but they've sent back a formal amendment. They just sent it to me, so I have it here.
To go to 25 now?
No,
This goes.
this is the formal for,
We're going to 24.
A 1-year.
with an
extension.
option,
Like
right?
November 30th.
I gave you all, I did it this morning. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I have that sheet, John.
That's faster.
This is all for you all so that you can see I'm not trying to sell you a fake Rolex.
I saw a potential new, BW, Framingham employees. Having run for some of the farm baskets over there, so it sounds like those jobs.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's just been, we were talking about it the other day, is just with the brand that we did, with the, with the things that are being done, that the tourism side is so inextricably linked to the ED side, from a talent perspective and from, all of those types of things, being able to sell the city for employees and residents and all that kind of stuff. So this Framatome thing is really, I felt like we've really been of value to them in a much deeper way than just in, like, I'm really being able to talk to them. We're still working on, John talked about last time, the housing,
Yeah.
looking at the housing part of it. Janelle jumped in, to look at how do we do, how do we start to lean in that direction factually? Like what are the real highlights there? We haven't done that as a city before. So I just feel like all of the things that we have out there have at least experimented with, the things that can help them. And I've got a big long list in my office right now of things to send back to their team. Or connections we've made, different things like that. They're going on a tour, going up to Randolph and going on the tour over there because Randolph has engineering students. They have a mechatronics program. And that, like a formal partnership with them for internships and different things like that. So it's just all making those connections that you would have thought people already knew were happening, or, but they don't. Just like if it's always, perplexing to me when we come in there and we talk all the time, but it's not until you really get involved in a project, they go, oh, you do that. We didn't know. So yeah, it's all good. I got this. I could talk for days on all the stuff we're got our toe into.
General question,
Yes.
It's a really how long is a piece of string question, so probably not appropriate, but I'll go anyway. I was over at CBCC for a lunch the other day, and one of the people speaking, I can't remember the guy's name actually, it was from a local bank, and he was just talking about a very negative outlook regarding lending to tertiary education organizations, and specifically pointed out Randolph as sort of a weak. And I know the whole demographic conversation right now, and how it's difficult for some of these smaller liberal arts colleges to survive in this environment. So I was just wondering, do we have a view around contingency planning around something like that failing?
Yeah, I don't know that we do. I just know that we, especially with, COVID, and then trying to look at what online and what all that looks like. So I feel like each one of the colleges is very, very aware, of all of that.
Yeah.
And is trying to do, and is trying to make sure that but your point of what would you do if that, if that happened? No, I don't think that I think we're still in in the idea of talking to them about the fact that you're a major employer here and we want to do whatever we can. Like I've taken that whole conversation with the colleges from them helping me, which they always want to do. They go, we want to be a part of the community. We want our students, we want our professors. I go, no, that's not the conversation. The conversation is, you're a major employer here. I want to assist you in what you need to do to remain viable and become successful. So if you want to get more students on your campus, then I want to bring sports tourism to your campus. So I got more parents and kids on your campus, and you might be able to make a buck on the facilities. I want to make sure that we have a letter from the mayor going out to all your prospective students and parents to say that the city, along with you, is going to take really good care of your kids while they're here. I want to know where you have any places where we, might be able to assist there. So, our first conversation with, Sue Rollins at Randolph was, she has a really, really aggressive goal for bringing, students. And it's ticking back up now. Is the broader look at everything is that you really, really have to be on top of your game, right? But I don't think that falls on deaf ears for any of the colleges here and what they're trying to do. But any kind of like real plan there for what you would do with that? No, we don't. I don't think we as a city, or as a, economic development organization, but it's a really good point.
Well, I think it's just interesting to hear him say, I've always been a bit of a believer in follow the money. And what he was saying as a lender is that there is a general belief in the lending community that they will not lend to organizations like that. And so they want to expand, what are they going to do? I mean,
Yeah.
But doesn't that also speak to a bigger trend in lending, which is that banks have tightened up so much that they don't do that kind of a loan anyway, and it's all coming from private capital?
And John, I mean, possibly, I wouldn't know, frankly. It was interesting to me to hear him be so negative about that, and in particular, Lynchburg. So what are the consequences of that?
Well, they're
I mean,
actually.
where do we fit it in terms of that, especially as a
They're
consequence of
redoing
that?
the building.
Oh, yeah, they're doing the science building.
Yeah, I wonder where they got the money for that.
They,
And in Dallas,
Donations.
They must have
Yeah.
Fundraising.
raised it.
Yeah.
they raised it and took advantage of all kinds of,
Grant funding.
grants and other things that are out there, right? You have to be on top of that every which way but loose, right? And truth is, I mean, Liberty right now is looking at growing their population.
They don't have money for things.
But they do from an infrastructure. I mean, you can have all the money in the world, but if you really got to take into account, that's why they had to stop accepting applications back a few years ago, because the infrastructure had to catch up with it.
That's probably what would.
But it's the whole thing of, are people still coming to campuses, or they, I mean, the drop in the birth rate, I mean, it's all of the things. It's the same thing that impacts talent
Yeah.
and all of that, and do people want to spend, I mean, the community colleges are supposed to be the bridge to access, right? You can get in there, just like Framingham says, you can get in there six figures in 6 years, right? You come in, you get an accreditation in 2 years and roll on, right? But everybody's got to be, I mean, all of us are going to be obsolete with AI, right? So I didn't just, I mean, yes, right?
Not all.
I don't think that
But
they
it's
will have
strong.
the colloquialisms I do. Other than-
Counting down a second.
But do we need to review this, lease amendment real quick and get in?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, but you had a letter from from Joe Miller at BWXT requesting that you extend the lease, and they've just come back now and given a formal at least, I think it's in your Dropbox.
Did you need a motion to approve the formal amendment?
Yeah, you won't, you work there. I
I
got you.
believe so, yes.
I'd be glad to make that motion if you'd like it.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Keisha. Good thing I talked to you.
So this shows no rent increase if they do the additional 1-year extension.
Yeah, I think that was what
Mhm.
Well, that's what they put forward, but based on that.
But the thing is, 85 moved, but we'll be hiring about 90 more.
Wow.
I'm hanging on as long as I can. I see Trex every time I see it.
And by spring, I know we had new hires coming on board in 2 weeks, but every month it's increasing. So we're looking between 85 and 90 people coming on board.
Wow.
Any further discussion before we vote? We've got a motion to approve this one. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
All right, that is the end of our regular meeting. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.